What is going on, everybody? So, I'm back today to talk about an A24 film. No, not an A24 archive video. I have not made it this far yet, as far as in the chronological order of A24 films, but a new A24 film that was released over a month ago. I'm really late to the game watching this one, but I was looking forward to seeing this movie. This is a film that I feel like has stirred up a lot of controversy as far as like people either really like this or they really hate it. And the film I'm going to be talking about today is Alex Garland's Men. Men is directed by Alex Garland. In the aftermath of a personal tragedy, Harper, played by Jessie Buckley, retreats alone to the beautiful English countryside, hoping to find a place to heal. But someone or something from the surrounding woods appears to be stalking her. What begins as a simmering dread becomes a fully formed nightmare inhabited by her darkest memories and fears. So I was really excited to watch this when the trailer came out because I am a huge Alex Garland fan. I really enjoyed Annihilation and I thought Ex Machina was a work of genius. I think that he's an incredibly talented director who has some incredible cinematography in his films and gets some really great performances from his actors, and this movie is no exception to that rule. The cinematography in this is amazing. It looks beautiful. The color palette in this movie is so vivid and gorgeous, and I really appreciated it. And obviously you get a really incredible performance from Jessie Buckley. There's not a lot of characters in this film, and multiple of them are played by Rory Kinnear, who also gives a brilliant performance in this movie. But other than that, it's a really small scale cast. You have her ex-husband, who we get flashbacks to throughout the film, and you have her friend that she talks to over FaceTime. At the beginning of the film, you see Jessie Buckley in her apartment, and she's looking outside, and so someone is falling down from the building, and she screams, and you learn that that is her ex-husband and something tragic happened to him, and she just wants to get away for a while. So she gets this house in the countryside, and she meets Jeffrey, played by Rory Kinnear, who is running this, I don't know if it's an Airbnb or a rental or whatever, and it's this beautiful house, and he shows her around, and he's kind of weird, but nothing super abnormal. He's just kind of eccentric. Jessie Buckley goes out one day and she's walking around and she sees this guy standing butt naked in the middle of the woods, and he follows her and he ends up following her to the house, and she calls the police and the police show up and take him away, and the rest of the film is just this culmination of events that occurs to get you to this really absurd third act. So I did not think this was the strongest of Alex Garland's films. As far as like the symbolism of the film and the message the movie is getting across, it's very ham-fisted and beat you over the head. I think people have been a little harsh on it. I mean, when you get into the situation of men telling stories of women, I understand that it's difficult for a lot of people. And I think Alex Garland's head was in the right place when he was doing this movie, but I feel like it's definitely a little ham-fisted as to like men are bad, they do terrible things, and there are men in this world who are awful, and you get the gist of that very easily. It's not like you have to piece it together, but there is some really horrible trauma that Jessie Buckley's character goes through that is relatable, that people have dealt with, and that is just awful and terrible experiences that her character has to go through. I do think that the message gets a little hammy at times, but less than that, I think one of my biggest issues with this movie is the pacing. It takes us such a long time to get into the film and to get where it's going that I feel like the first half hour is just kind of wasted. There's a lot of Jessie Buckley in the beginning moving aimlessly through the woods for a very long period of time, and I feel like it doesn't really add up to much. It doesn't really give you any sort of background into her character. It's more just like aesthetics, which is fine. I mean, it's pretty to look at, but I feel like for an hour and 40-minute runtime, use that hour and 40 minutes to kind of drill home the message or the suspense or whatever you're trying to do. And I feel like even those moments where she was wandering aimlessly through the woods until she gets to that like tunnel area, there's really not that much dread or suspense build up, and that was kind of unfortunate. And then as the film progresses, the third act is absolutely wild. I'm not going to get into talking about it in grave detail other than I saw some things my eyes cannot unsee. It's executed really well. There's some really horrific imagery. Like I said, I think Rory Kinnear gives a brilliant performance. There's that one character of the little kid with his face CGI'd onto him that's kind of like cheesy looking. The end of this film in the third act really starts to build up that suspense. I just feel like the way that Garland was trying to convey this message is a little sloppy. It's very much like you get it through the flashbacks more than the interaction with Rory Kinnear's character. Although, I mean, I like the more subtle stuff, like the interactions with the priest. That scene where her and the priest are talking outside of the church is one of my favorite scenes in the film that I feel like really gets the message across well as far as how their dialogue's going back and forth, and I like that way that it's conveyed. Towards the end, it just gets so, like, over the top, and I understand Garland's probably thinking, okay, well, I'm doing all this stuff that's like a real visual assault on you, and kind of, like, adding to that with the dialogue the characters are conveying. But it just got to a point where I was like, okay, I get it. Like, you're not adding anything, you're just kind of saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and not adding on to it. Especially, like, you've seen the film, you know, the third act has this sequence of, like, horrifying imagery that continues to occur. Like, I get it where it's like, hey, men continue to treat women this way, it's not good, it's not right, and it's a good message, and I'm glad that people are talking about the mistreatment of women and how certain men perceive women. But at the same time, it's like that visual imagery that he's using. I'm like, okay, by the third or fourth time it happened, I'm like, I get the point, I understand it. It wasn't as interesting to look at, and the end of the film was kind of underwhelming. I mean, I'm all for an ambiguous ending and for things to kind of leave you in this spot where you're like, holy shit, what the fuck did I just watch? But compared to, like, Ex Machina, which I felt like had such a powerful payoff, such a really intense and immersive experience, by the end of this, I was left wanting a lot more. And that's not to say I think the film is bad, because I don't. There's a lot of people online giving this like 1.5, 2 stars on Letterboxd, and I think that's really harsh. I don't think this movie is unwatchable. I don't think it's not entertaining. I think that there are enough redeemable elements of this movie that it is worth your time to watch and kind of develop your own perception of this. Like I said, the cinematography is brilliant. The performances are amazing. I think Jessie Buckley was phenomenal. Rory Kinnear did a great job. And the score to this movie is fantastic. It really adds to that suspense, and it kind of builds that dread inside of you. And I think that this is a solid film. I just think that it falls short in a lot of ways, that I feel like Alex Garland is a fantastic filmmaker who I think fell a little short with this movie. I will still be excited for whatever he makes in the future, and I think this is worth your time. I just don't think it's his strongest or anything strongest in A24's catalog. So have you seen Men? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was wild and it was intense, but it fell short in a lot of ways where I felt like it could have been a lot stronger. And I'm hoping that Alex Garland kind of fixed some of his mistakes and does a little bit better with whatever he makes in the future. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm putting out a lot of material weekly. I'm having a lot of fun getting it out there for you, and I look forward to putting more videos out in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.